Everyone, welcome to another video. In this video I will tell you how we can fetch more than 5000 records in Power Automate. You know, by default, if you take an action list rows by connecting to the dataverse or Dynamics 365 entity, let's say account, and you can use a fetchxml here, right? This is a small fetchxml which is reading accounts and attribute name. Now if your account entity have more than 5000 records, it will just read 5000 records and sit idle, because we have to implement some looping concept so that to retrieve more records, because one shot it will only return 5000 records. So let us check this. This is manual trigger and I have used a list row and connected to account and given a fetchxml here, fetch entity account and attribute name and fetch end, right? Now let me take another compose action here to identify how many records are returning, right? I can take compose and give a formula here, length of the list row, right? Now if you run it and test it, you will see that the compose step will have only 5000 record, right? Because the list row only can fetch 5000 at one shot. Now it returns data. Then if I'll go to compose, you will see only 5000 records are there. And what about other records? So other records are not returned because the list row will only return 5000 and sit idle. Now how we can do this, how we can implement some while loop or for loop or some loops to read more records that is available in the account entity. It's applicable for all other entity in Dynamics 365 or Dataverse. So let us see how we can do that. So before going to implement this looping concept for paging and retrieving more than 5000 records, first we have to understand, when we have hit this list row, what is the output that is given here, right? Because the input we have given this one, the fetchxml, right? And this is this looks very simple fetchxml, right? Now if you click on this click to download, in the output you will see a lot of information in JSON format. Let us copy this and go to a JSON formatter. Here you will paste. I want to see the JSON node wise, so I have pasted here and click on validate and format. Once I will click validate and format, it will give me node wise formatted JSON object, right? Let us wait. Now there I can see what the fetchxml is returning in the body, right? So I can collapse this header, and in the body I can see there is some more options that I can analyze. The first option is, let me collapse all first and then expand body. Here you can see some facts that giving me some clue that there are more records available. Can you see that? Microsoft Dynamics CRM more records node is true, and also there is a paging cookie, fetchxml paging cookie available here, right? Cookie page number 2 paging cookie is equal to this one, and this is the encoded URL encoded value, right? Now if you take this encoded URL value and go to URL encoder or decoder and try to decode this twice. If you decode this twice, you will get this formatted value, right? The raw value was this, but if you decode once and again you want to decode, you will see this is the formatted value. Cookie page 1, account ID, last account ID and first account ID, right? So that means somehow we can manipulate this cookie that is returning here as a paging cookie of fetchxml paging cookie attribute of this body, return response body, and we can pass the page number age to second time through loop, and here I can mention some cookie accordingly to our manipulation, right? So let us see how we can manipulate this, because I want to pass this cookie dynamically so that the fetchxml will return next set of 5000 records in next loop. Now to understand this, I will tell you to go to this website. This is the Microsoft website. Here you will see the fetchxml's more properties for paging concept. If you are dealing with large result sets more than 5000, you can add some more attributes for fetchxml, like first is paging cookie, as you have seen here, this type of paging cookies. Next, after this paging cookie, you have to pass page attribute. This page property will be either 1, 2, 3, 4 like that. So according to the paging, you have to pass dynamically, and the count we have to pass is how many records you want to read in one loop. For me, it will be 5000. So I want to read 5000 page by page using page cookies. Simple, right? So you understand this. So let us see how we can build this fetchxml dynamically through some variable and some manipulation using expressions. We will see that, right? Now let's go here. You understand this JSON formatter, right? I don't need this. And this URL encoder decoder is very important to identify or to encode or decode values that are encoded for URL manipulations. Now here you will see. Now let us go to my flow and let us see how I can design to read more than 5000 records, right? Let me close this. I have created this sample flow for you for understanding purpose. So first, what I have taken a count variable, and this is the instant trigger flow. So whenever you click manually, then only it will run. But you can also use any trigger, whether it is automated trigger or whether it is event based or recurrence, scheduled, whatever type of Power Automate exists, you can use it. After that, after the trigger is used, you have to you can declare a record count variable. It may not be necessary, may not be mandatory, because if your requirement is different, you may not need this record variable. But for this demo, I just initialized a total record variable so that I can check how many total records are returned at the end, right? So this is the total record variable, and name I have given count, and type I have given integer, and initialized a value 0. So this variable will represent or summed up every loop through every loop, and finally it will give a final count, right? Next, I have initialized another variable whose type is string, and I have given name paging cookie. Now this paging cookie will be used to fetch the fetchxml paging cookie that is returned whenever a list row action performed. I have shown you in the JSON formatter, right, the value of the paging cookie, fetchxml paging cookie attribute. Now this will store the paging cookie, raw paging cookie, fetchxml paging cookie that is returned from the list row response. And the third variable I have created, paging cookie only. You have seen in the formatter that the paging cookie, let me go back here and tell you again, JSON formatter, okay, this one, oh, this is the, not this one, let me go to decoder URL online. This is the cookie, right? Now this is the thing that I need to get from the fetchxml paging cookie, and because this is a part of the fetchxml paging cookie, right? If you go here, let me go back again, I'll show you. I closed that. Let me go to my flow, and this is the test edit, right? So this is the flow I have created to show you that how it is returning. Let me test it again. I'm just trying to make you understand why I have taken this initialize paging cookie only. When it is running and the first set of row is returned, in the response, if you click on the download the response, click to download, and let me copy the entire code. Here also, if you search, you can get it. If you search cookie, or it's better you can take this because this is not well formatted. Copy this and go to JSON formatter. Right. Now here I can paste this and click on validate and format. The same thing I have shown you last time, right? Now I will just click on collapse all node. Right, click on collapse all. It will take some time. Right. Now this is collapsed. I can expand body. Now here you can see this paging cookie, the fetchxml paging cookie attribute of the response stores a lot of things like cookie page number 2. Then inside paging cookie it had some encoded attribute, right? Now I want to, so this variable I have taken, this variable paging cookie will only store this value, complete value, right? Starting from this to this. Let me copy this entire code. So this variable will store the total code, but I want only this paging cookie attribute value up to this, right? Because I have to pass this information to the second iteration. So what I will do, I have taken another variable here whose name is paging cookie only. So out of this entire fetchxml paging cookie, I have to only extract this paging cookie value so that I can pass in next iteration. So I'll go here and I have declared this. So let me collapse this one. Now the third one is I have taken a JSON object with a blank format, okay, so that I can replace it for my use. Next I have added a do until loop. How to add do until loop? You can click on add an action and search control and click on do until, right? So once I have added do until, inside the do until I have added then the expression. I'm checking whether the variable paging cookie that stores the raw fetchxml that stores the raw fetchxml paging value empty or not. If it is empty, I don't want to do paging, right? Now it is telling that if it is empty or it is true, that means if, let me again click this, if paging cookie variable is true, that means it is, that means the loop will run through till the paging cookie is blank. If there is some paging cookie available, then I do need to again fetch the next set of records. So if there are more records after returning 5000 records at initial stage, you will have always the paging cookie attribute available in the response, right? This will be available always if there are more records after the first iteration. That's why it is given that if paging cookie is true, then only loop through, otherwise stop it. So what I need to do in the iteration, the first thing is limit. I have set the limit as 5000. and timeout is pt 1 hour 1h, because at one shot I want to return 5000. Next I have taken a list row so that I can get the account information, and here I have mentioned the fetchxml, here I have mentioned the table name, and here in the fetchxml I have mentioned fetch count equal 5000. I have shown you last time that I have not used all these parameters, I have just used fetch account name. Now I have to make it dynamic. So count is 5000. What is the page? What page number I have to pass? The page number I have to pass dynamically through iteration. When it is first iteration, I have to pass 1. In the next iteration, I have to pass 2, like that. So dynamically I can write down a formula using iteration indexes. Iteration index will give you the current iteration the loop is executing. Right now, iteration index do until will give you the current iteration, and in the current iteration I am adding 1, so it will give you the next iteration of the current iteration every time it will execute. Now the next thing is I have written a formula or expression to identify or to define proper page cookie, right? Because I have shown you that whenever you want to get more information, more paging information, it requires 2 information. One is count, page, then page cookie. Now here I am setting the page cookie, right? Now first I am checking whether the iteration is 0 or not. If it is 0, I don't want to define a page cookie, right? But for next iteration onwards, I want to define a page cookie, right? Now let us, before analyzing this, let us understand some more information below. Once it is reading first time 5000 records, next I am incrementing the count variable. Count variable was there initialized as 0, but after this returning, after the step returns 5000 records, the variable gets incremented by 1. Sorry, it incremented by the length of the list row that is returning, right? 5000 it will return, so it will add 5000 to the 0. Next, update fetchxml paging cookie variable. Now it is, I have written some variable, written some formula here by checking if the account, the get account actions fetchxml paging cookie is blank or empty. That means in this, in here I am checking whether this property, fetchxml paging cookie property of the response is blank or not. So if it is blank, then set the paging cookie as blank, because I don't want to set paging cookie, right? But if it is not blank, what I am doing, I am reading this, paging fetchxml paging cookie value, total complete value here, and assign to this variable, updating this variable. So why I have used decode URI component, twice, I have shown you here, right? Because when you put it the value and click decode twice, it will give you the original value. That's why it is decode URI component twice, so that it will give you the original value. So you understand, this update fetchxml paging cookie variable section, or this action updates the fetchxml paging cookie variable by checking the emptiness of this fetchxml paging cookie property of the response. Now this response is from get account action, right? Now next important thing is updating the paging cookie only variable. So we have returned this value starting from this to end. We have retrieved this complete information, right? Let me copy this and take this value to here and click on decode URL. Now when you decode decode URL, you will see this is the complete fetchxml paging value that is returning as a response. But I only need this information. It starts from here and ends here, right? I just want this information. So to extract this information, I have written some formula here, right? So I'm using checking whether a page cookie is blank or not. If it is blank, check the index of paging cookie variable. Check the index of this paging cookie equal to string from this variable. I have set last step. Then replace the substring. Replace this paging cookie value that is returning using substring. And I'm removing this is tracking false also and replacing by blank, because I don't need this one, right? I don't need this one, so I will replace this information with blank. And also I am doing some replace. So I have used three things: replace, substring, and add and index of. So this will extract this information, only the cookie part, paging cookie part, which I need it, right? Now once it is returned here, what I have done, outside of the loop, I have taken a compose step and I have assigned this count variable, because I am increasing this count here. So what this flow will do now, this flow will fetch 5000 records every time, every iteration, and sum of the count variable to define how many records are returning, right? The most complex part is this one, whenever you want to define the paging cookie, right? Now here you will see we are checking if the iteration is 0. If this iteration is 0, set as blank, no page cookie. If it is not blank, then concatenate page cookie equal to string with the value that is returning from the paging cookie only, which is a filter, right? I have shown you last time. And here we are returning some raw JSON. We are using raw JSON variable to set the paging cookie variable in a JSON format. So you can take this formula for your case and use it on your flow. So this is how we have used this. Now if you want to do some action also in this loop, you can do it, right? Let's say you want to delete or you want to send email or something like that, then you can add some action here and you can send some emails one by one, right? Because all the get accounts are the get account step contains all the records which are part of account table, right? So how to send an email, you can also use, let's say you want to send email, so I can use Outlook, and inside that I can use send email. Let's say you want to use account email address here, then you can use the account email. So I can click on this dynamic value and search here email, right? Now this is from get account. Now when I have added this, it will create another apply to each loop, because every iteration the do until loop will fetch 5000 records. Then the 5000 records will loop through to send email. Once it is completed, again the do until loop will start for next iteration. Again it will fetch 5000 or whatever the rest records available, and it will loop through the for each loop and send email. So this is how you have to implement your flow as per your requirement, right? Let me delete this. Just I want to show you how it is returning the data. Let me save and test it. Let me click on test, click on manual and run the flow, and done. Now all these steps are executed. Now it is in do until step. Now you will see if I'll click on compose, it will give you 6100 records, right? Now I have successfully returned more than 5000 records using do until loop and using fetchxml, important fetchxml query, right? So I will send you this link of this flow so that you can download for your case and edit it. So thank you for watching this video. I hope it is useful for your projects. See you next time. Thank you.